What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me for yet another video. I promised to do this video a couple weeks ago. I was going to update you guys as soon as I got the new tail light on the bike, which I'll give you a quick shot before I turn it on. But there it is right there. It's smoked LED, picked it up off of Amazon for like 35 bucks. Pretty sweet deal, plug and play. Can't complain about it. It's a pretty good tail light. I wish it was a little bit brighter, but it does the job and it does the job well. So let me go ahead and turn the bike on just so you guys can see what it looks like when it's illuminated. It's got a really bright top LED for the license plate. That's nice. And then as you can see, it's got all the little LEDs right there. So it does the job. I mean, for 35 bucks, you really can't complain. Not a bad deal. There's some other changes that I've done to the bike. First and foremost, quite noticeable, is the air cleaner here. So I picked this up off of Amazon. It's basically a copy of the Roland Sands turbine air cleaner. Pretty inexpensive. I think it was around 120 bucks. You can get them a little bit cheaper than that, but the reason I picked this specific one up was because over here on the workbench, let me try to grab it real quick. It did come with this rain cover included, so this is supposed to be kind of anti-water and repel water a little bit. I played with it under the sink. I think the water pressure is a little higher than what you'd expect from a sink compared to some rain. It definitely would work well in light rain, maybe to medium rain, but in heavy rain, I still think you would need to pull over and maybe wait for the rain to let up a little bit. But for a little drizzle, you know, for the bike being parked and protecting it from getting the filter element wet, it does the job. It's a pretty good looking intake. I like it. Makes nice induction noises. The exhaust is still pretty loud, so you can't hear much of the induction noises when you're ripping on it. But other than that, I haven't had any issues with it. It was a pretty clean install. If you do pick this up, just make sure you use some blue Loctite on all your fasteners. Especially there's a nut on the other side of this little cone right here. Put some blue Loctite on that, because that would be the one that I would not want to rattle loose and then get sucked into the intake. I use Loctite on everything, and even like the little spacers right here, like they fit really well. Like it presses it into the intake manifold back there into that gasket very well. There's no free play, nothing like that. It's got its own internal breather system in here for, you know, the bypass or the oil blow by and all that good stuff. So that is still being recirculated through the intake. Pretty clean install. It took me like maybe 45 minutes total, and that was taking my time. Other than that, another change that I made was, as you can see from the previous video, I have a different exhaust, and this is actually an OEM exhaust. I picked this up for $45 off of Facebook Marketplace. It came with pretty much everything I needed. It is debaffled, and I don't think you can see it, but in there are these little inserts, which is really dark in there, so you can't probably see them, but they're called Thunder Torque inserts. So it's been debaffled, but it had the Thunder Torque inserts put in there, and what that does is help eliminate and prevent exhaust reversion, which I think was the issue that I was really having with the previous exhaust, which I have in pieces in the garage here. And as you can see, like, it's fairly corroded. This pipe, not so bad, but this one over here, oh my goodness. Like, the chrome plating is basically falling off, especially up there by where the exhaust inserts into the head. Down here, not so bad. But I got all this taken care of. The bike is running really well now. Another thing that I did as soon as I threw on this intake, in order to make the bike run well, was I did throw a 44 sized pilot jet in there. So the 883 comes stock with a 42 pilot jet, and then it has a 175 main jet. Usually with a stage 1 setup like this, you can leave the main jet alone. They're usually pretty well from the factory for a stage 1 setup, but the pilot jet did need to be upped. Now, while I was going through that, let me tell you guys a little story. So while upgrading the bike to stage 1, you know, the air cleaner and the exhaust here, I found a lot of issues in the carburetor. So one thing that happened to me was I had some fuel that started to leak out from the accelerator pump here. So I opened that up and I found that the accelerator pump diaphragm had a couple micro tears in it. So I went ahead and replaced that. And then while I was in there, I cleaned out the carburetor bowl, you know, I did the rejetting, all that good stuff. And one thing that's been really odd, and I've been finding it on this bike a lot, is there's this orange silicone material that I kept finding. And also down here, which I'm trying to get a good shot of it, I probably can't, but right up in here, that's where the idle mixture screw is. And can't really get up in there. The idle mixture screw was actually covered by like this orange silicone material. And so what I did was I stuck a pick in there and I dug all that out. And I had been playing with the idle mixture screw, trying to give this bike the proper idle mix. The reason for that is you can fine tune the idle mix on this bike and kind of help with the off idle, you know, fueling. So anything from like off idle to a quarter throttle, that idle mixture screw can help dial in how the bike responds to throttle input. So initially throwing the intake on, the bike was running a little bit lean, it felt like. So I dug that stuff out and I was playing with the idle mixture screw. And I've been playing with it for like a couple weeks now, and it just always seemed like no matter what I did, I was getting black spark plugs almost instantaneously, like no matter what I would do. I'm like, okay, the bike is running rich, but why is it running rich? And why does it keep running rich? But every time I would try to lean it out, I would get backfires through the carburetor, or what people call carb farts. And anytime I would back it off to where the carb would stop farting when it was at, you know, the proper operating temperature, I was still blacking plugs. And I was losing my mind about it. That silicone actually was also all over the accelerator pump. When I took the accelerator pump off, the silicone was covering everything, like the old diaphragm, everything. There was actually a missing O-ring in there, all types of crap. So I bought a rebuild kit off of Amazon for like 10 bucks. It came with the accelerator pump diaphragm, it came with new gaskets, it came with some jets, it came with a needle, it came with a new diaphragm even for the vacuum slide up here, which that's in good working order, so I didn't even bother messing with it. So what I did was I went ahead and I replaced the diaphragm, and then I took the idle mixture screw all the way out, and guess what? The idle mixture screw actually has, the whole assembly is the screw itself, a spring, a washer, and an O-ring. When I took the idle mixture screw out, the only thing in there was the screw and a broken O-ring. There was no spring, there was no washer, no nothing. So whoever has gone through this carburetor previously had no idea what they were doing and were trying to just like do quick fixes and workarounds that were just making the bike run fairly poorly, especially in the quarter throttle range. I threw a brand new idle mixture screw in there with the spring and the washer and the O-ring, got that seated, so that actually feels really good now. It has nice feedback to it, but the bike still wasn't running quite right. I was getting this little bit of breakup at like, you know, quarter throttle, maybe even an eighth of a throttle, just trying to cruise. The bike was breaking up and I couldn't figure out why. So just yesterday, I took the car back off the bike, cleaned it up again. I sprayed out every passageway. I sprayed out the jets again. And I'm just like, what is going on with this thing? Well, lo and behold, what I found while I was in there is that the float and the float needle were also brand new. So I took the carb all the way off the bike, you know, disconnected the throttle linkage, the gas, the choke and everything. And I took it over to the bench, and this is what really blew my mind, is like, why did somebody do this? And let me show you something here, something I built. So I went to Harbor Freight and I picked up this clamp and this little dial right here. And as you can see, I have it set, I don't know if that'll focus, but it's set to 20 degrees right now. So when you're actually setting the float height, your carburetor is supposed to sit at a 20-degree angle, and the float would actually be on this side, right? And the float is supposed to come down, and I'll show you some pictures of this. It's supposed to come down and basically be parallel with the bottom of the float bolt assembly. But in order to actually check it accurately, it should be resting on the 20-degree angle, and you should take a caliper like this, and you're gonna use this end down here. And what I did is, the tolerance for this is supposed to be from 10.5 millimeters to an 11.5 millimeters. So what I did was I set my caliper to 11 millimeters, and then you run this along the carb body and up against the float itself, and there should be little to no, you know, tolerance between there. Like, it shouldn't touch it, but it also shouldn't be like a gap. So I did that, threw the carburetor back on the bike, fired it up, reset my idle mixture screw to 2 turns out, and the bike ran beautifully. So what ended up being my issue and why I kept blacking plugs was I had to set the idle mixture screw so far out because my float was set super lean. So the float was actually like leaned up away from the carb body in the position that it was in. So somebody threw a new float and needle in there but never set the height. And I'm actually surprised with how lean out it was set that the bike could actually run. And so what I believe was happening is that the fuel wasn't rising to the proper level in the float, and it was shutting the fuel off so early that when I was at cracked throttle, it was basically, you know, it would starve for fuel a little bit. And it would run well at wide open throttle, and that's because the main jet's needle is actually deeper down into the bowl. So it was getting adequate fuel, but the idle jet was not. And so whenever I was off the idle jet, the bike actually ran very well. Well, now the bike runs well across the board. I took the bike out for a ride, pulled the plugs after the bike cooled down, and guess what? My plugs looked brand new still. I'm gonna give them about 100 miles and check them for color again, and we'll see what's going on. What I'm gonna go ahead and do as well is just show you guys a comparison clip of the exhaust. I'm gonna show you the old exhaust and how it sounded, and I'm gonna show you what this one sounds like right now. Bike sounds a lot better with the stock exhaust, with the baffles out, with the Thunder Torque inserts. I will say that much because it was ear blistering loud with the Santee pipes on. They're basically just a straight pipe. Whoever owned this bike before also took the baffles out of those, and I don't have them. And they're so corroded and just nasty on the inside from running rich for so long that I don't think I was going to be able to fit any aftermarket baffle in them. So that's why I picked up this exhaust, and all I had to do was go get some gaskets and throw everything together, and now the bike runs fairly well. It doesn't seem to be blacking the plugs, but like I said, I'm going to keep an eye on it, and the bike is running, it runs well. I mean, it pulls hard all the way up to the red line, and it just keeps feeling like it just wants to pull and pull and pull. I was getting really frustrated to the point where I was like, I want a freaking fuel injected bike. I am so tired of messing around with this carburetor. But after watching some videos of other YouTubers and, you know, like channels that were designed to learn about these bikes on, it's actually much easier than I thought. So just do your research and watch some videos like I did and learn from fellow YouTubers. And this carburetor is actually not as big of a headache as you would think it is. Does it take some extra time? Yes, but the jets, like to rejet this carburetor, I spent like, I don't know, the jet was $4 online. I bought some gaskets, you know, I bought some things from Amazon. All in all, to rejet this, it cost me like $15 between like the rebuild kit and the jet to redo the idle jet. And so like I couldn't ask for anything better right now. But like I said, I'll keep you guys updated on how it's running. Still working on getting some equipment for moto vlogging. You know, I still need the microphone adapter for the Hero 10 and a new microphone and all that. And then we'll get that back up and running. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Just an update on the Sportster real quick. It's just getting better and better as I keep going through things. And if you enjoyed the content and the information that you guys have gotten today, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, supports the channel, keeps me motivated to make more videos. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified about future videos, especially on the Sportster here. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.